Hello, and welcome to another book review, another exciting one because it's Morgan Daimler's new book, Celtic Fairies in North America. Again, if you've seen any of these before, you'll know that I am a huge fan of Morgan Daimler. Their work is just phenomenal. Their breadth of knowledge, just fantastic. The fact that they always give such detailed information with bibliography, and it's always done in a non-judgmental fashion, allowing the reader to make up their own mind. They provide the information. They tell you when they're inserting their own ideas or their own gnosis, again, which I love, but allows the reader to actually make up their own minds. The other interesting thing about this book is that Morgan Daimler's used a different method of investigation. So although there is the historical part to this, which I'll come to in a minute when I go through the book, but they've also used anecdotal evidence. They put out, I don't know how, but they put out to their friends and colleagues and what have you, and asked them if they had any anecdotal evidence from their families. And they've used that in here, which makes it so much more accessible. It makes it real. As somebody whose mother was Irish and was born and brought up in England, who had aunts who lived in America, I have personal stories about the Fae and the other people in the crowd, and it's why I'm very wary of them. They're there, I know they're there, but I am very cautious about them because of the stories that I grew up with. Now, these were stories that my mother and her siblings knew from growing up in Ireland. They took them with them. So I had that anecdotal to actually see it in a book, to see that, yes, the other crowd are not tied to the location as such. Some of them will be, depending on circumstances, but others do travel with the people. They go with the people. This book, just as you can tell, it's a pagan portals. It's the usual lovely, concise, I think there's about 100 pages, as there usually is in the Pagan Portals series. Packed, absolutely packed with information. So I will start at the beginning, where every good book should start, by telling you that there is a foreword and an introduction where in the introduction, Morgan Daimler explains why she decided to do this book. She discusses her methodology, and gives you that overview of, she's presenting you with the facts as she has found them. She's not making any judgment or anything. She's just putting it down for the reader to make up their own minds. Chapter 1 is then about fairies outside of Europe, because this is about Celtic fairies. So again, Morgan Daimler very keen to say Celtic is a culture. It covers numerous areas across Europe, England. So you've got Gaul, you've got Brittany, you've got Cornwall, you've got the south of England, you've got Wales, you've got Ireland. They are part of a Celtic tradition, but they are not all the same. They are all different. And she's very keen to say that, you know, she has used Celtic, but it's not discussing just one particular, because it covers a large area. She then goes in chapter 2 She then discusses information that she got from Canada, specifically Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, and Prince Edward Island. Chapter 3 is about the United States, New England, Appalachia. I didn't realise that, Appalachia, and the Ozarks, and then across the US. Chapter 4, Mexico. Wow. In chapter 5, she then goes into pop culture fairies in North America. Then chapter 6 is contemporary experiences, where people have actually sent her in things that are continuing to happen. They're not just the stories that they've been told. These are things that are actually contemporary experiences. And then chapter 7 is that blurry line. She's called it blurry lines. And then there's a conclusion. There is then an extensive section of endnotes, bibliography. Love Morgan Daimler for her bibliographies, because it allows you to go and investigate bits and pieces that resonate with you or pique your interest, so you can send you down a whole rabbit hole, as they do. So yes, so if you had asked, so the introduction starts, if you had asked someone who believed in fairies 100 years ago if there were any of these beings outside the traditional Celtic language speaking cultures, the answer would most likely have been a definite yes. Today, the subject has become controversial. And yes, so and this is the other thing. This is all dealt with in a very understanding way. She is considerate of Indigenous peoples and their beliefs. She also manages to pick out those areas between the Indigenous beliefs and the incoming beliefs where they are similar and also where they differ. Because the fairy folk are across the world. Whatever their name is under that particular culture, they are there. They just are. But they'll be known by different names, because obviously we've got different names for different things. But Morgan Daimler actually manages to point out where they're similar, but also where there were differences. It's just an absolutely fascinating book to open up your thoughts, your ideas. So if you're interested in fairy at all, it's an excellent book. If you're specifically interested in the Celtic cultures, then obviously it's going to be extremely interesting. I'm just in awe of this author, because she just manages to do so much in such a small book. It is absolutely fantastic. It is a fascinating subject. I'm running out of words now, because I could wax on, as you know from my other waffles about this author's books. Just to say, absolutely fantastic. So much packed in it, beautifully written, sensitively written, perfect. I will leave it there before I just carry on and on and on. So yeah, see you again next time.